Hey guys, Smith here with Minute Maintenance, coming at you today with the 2014 Dodge Grand Caravan. Now today we're going to do a transmission, filter, and fluid swap on this vehicle. Drop the pan, swap out the filter, put on a new seal, do the reverse, and fill it up with transmission fluid. And I'm also going to show you a nice little cheap, easy hack at home that you can use to check your own transmission fluid on this 2014 Dodge Grand Caravan, because it has a fill tube, but there's no dipstick for you to actually check your transmission fluid. So I'm going to show you a nice little hack around that. So stick with me. Let's get some work done. Alright guys, we have before us a 2014 Dodge Grand Caravan. It has the 3.6 liter VVT motor, and today we're going to do a transmission fluid swap. Don't mind the handprints, guys. I just finished filming another video for this site. Check it out on the website as well here. Minute Maintenance on YouTube is where I changed out the transmission shift solenoid for this vehicle to solve a stalling issue where it switched from reverse, shift into drive, the van would stall. We took care of that problem, but now we're going to make it even better by doing a transmission fluid swap, and I highly recommend doing it every 50,000 miles, guys. I know some people recommend doing it longer intervals. 50,000 is safe. Make sure you have nice, clean, fresh fluid for your transmission to shift properly, because transmissions are expensive to fix, expensive to rebuild, expensive to replace. So if you swap out the fluid more readily, put a new filter in there so I can filter any particles or any metal that's building up in that's going to cause damage even better and even sooner. It's going to last even longer. That's just common sense, guys. So let's go ahead and jack up the front end. It's going to be step number one, so we can get easy access transmission pan, and let's get to work. Alright guys, first things first, let me get my light here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to jack up the front end. We don't need to go very far. We're not trying to get all the wheels off the ground, but what I'm going to take my floor jack here and I'm going to put it right underneath. Get you guys down here so you can see right there where the front engine support connects to the frame. That should give us, because all we need is enough clearance so I can get underneath and work on removing the bolts on this guy right here. So obviously I don't got to go very far underneath there. So this will be good enough. Well, that's a nice solid sturdy connection point right there. And we'll get it jacked up. Alright guys, and here we're underneath the vehicle so I can work on all the bolts right here in this transmission pan. Don't mind this fluid down here again. I was just changing out the transmission shift solenoid, which I had to do from underneath, but also at the top of the engine. I had to pull out the coolant overflow tank. I got a little spill here, so don't worry about that. We're going to be draining transmission fluid, most likely to spill, so I figured I'd clean it all up in one fell swoop. Alright guys, so what we have 12 bolts, 5/16 in length, going all the way around the transmission pan. Let me see if I can get you guys a nice view of all this. So we got some right there, and they go all the way around the transmission pan, around the back and both sides. And so not really good view for you guys to watch. I need to clean up on a hoist, but we'll do what we can. We'll make it work for you guys. Now what I'm going to do is, I have my 5/16 socket here. I'm going to start by loosening up the bolts on this end of the pan, work my way up the sides here, leaving these back ones here to very last. There is no drain plug on transmission pans. Why isn't there drain plug so you can drain the fluid out easier? Because car engineers, automobile engineers hate you. They don't want you to know that, but they hate you. And so they want to make things harder. They give you an oil drain plug for your oil pan. You think they'd put one for the transmission? No, they don't want to do that. You can buy them aftermarket, you can install them yourself, but they don't give you one from the factory because they just don't like you. So what you have to do is you have to loosen up the pan from one side. I'm choosing this side just based on the angle. All the fluid's going to flow towards the back just because the front end's jacked up. So I'm going to loosen up the bolts going up the sides, leaving these for last. That way I can drop the pan on the back side so I'll catch all my fluid down there. Let's go ahead and start loosening these up. Whoop, whoop. Try to maintain your connection and your composure. What are you doing, Smith? Get it together. Act like you've been there before. There we go. And I'm using hand tools, guys. I have power tools, but you can do these things by hand. That's why we make these videos. That's why me and Derek are putting these together, to show you guys you can save money and get things done the right way at home. So I'm gonna go ahead and break these loose, and then I'll finish them off by hand. All right, so I got those loosened up, the ones that I wanted. I'm gonna go ahead and try to pull the back end here. There's a seal, so it might be a little difficult, but see if I can loosen it up. Okay, no go so far. Let's go ahead and drop these two outer ones then. Loosen these ones up. That way. There we go. Oh no, she's really starting to drip. Ooh. Where do you guys think you're going? Stay there. All right. Loosen, 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 loosen. And I'm looking, I'm watching the drips. Make sure I can angle my pan appropriately. There we go. And there's the waterfall. Ooh, wasn't that beautiful, guys? Ah, gorgeous. All right. The seal broke free, so I'm going to drop this bolt here. We got a little fluid on the floor. That's okay, guys. That's all right. It's part of the job, right? Let it drain, let it drain. I'll push it back up so I can try to work these bolts out. All right, guys, and so as you can see, the more I loosen up these last remainders here, the more fluid that comes out. I'm trying to do this with one hand so you guys can continue to have a view of the amazingness that's taking place. Oh, your transmission and your engine's going to run so much better after this. It's going to feel better. It's going to be happier. There we go. One to go. The final one. Obviously, you guys doing this at home with two hands, not filming yourselves, this will be 10 times easier for you. That's why I do it, guys. That's why I suffer. I do it for you. I do it for the people. There we go. Break it free. Oh, like a boss. These Gorilla mitts help. These giant hands I got. And then dump the rest in there. And let it continue to drip and drain. Alright guys, while that continues to drip and drain out the rest of the transmission fluid into that pan over there, I wanted to bring you over here to my workbench. Now this here in the corner, whenever you're doing this job, this is a magnet. Sometimes it's like welded in part of the pan. A lot of times it's just a loose magnet. Be sure to pull that off and wipe that down. Look at that, guys. Look at all that sludge. That's metal. That's metal debris from your engine and transmission grinding. It's going to happen. It's part of the, well, it's just part of the nature of the beast. You got gears in there, metal gears grinding. The fluid helps, but that's why you have that magnet to capture any of those particulates from getting sucked back up through the transmission, worked through, making things worse, almost like sand. You want to get that completely clean and clear of any debris. That way, it can get every last bit of metal in the future for you and put it right back where you found her, right back there in the corner. Oop, not leaving that bit of paper towel in there. That's coming with me. Now guys, you also want to take some sort of flat blade scraper, screwdriver, and work the old seal off the sides, whether it's an actual gasket or it's RV sealant from somebody's at-home job. There's nothing wrong with RV sealant. I've never had much use for it, so whenever I do an oil pan gasket, transmission pan gasket, differential gasket, I always like to get a OEM seal, because I can never, for the life of me, get RV to dry and adhere appropriately. And keep a level hand, don't dig down, don't gouge, just let the utensil do the work. I'm not adding any weight, I'm just keeping it flat and I'm moving her across. And I'm letting the weight of the utensil do the work. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to add any pressure. I don't want to gouge into this because my seal's not going to work right. So I put a big gouge in here, even if it's only a few microns minimal. Well, the amount of pressure that the transmission is under, the amount of pressure of the fluid being pushed around, that's going to be something that the fluid and the pressure can exploitate, take advantage of, cause you a heck of issues. I'll go ahead and finish, get this cleaned up, and then we'll go back to the transmission, remove our filter, and do the same thing to the transmission side. Make sure we get all the seal off that end. Alright guys, now it's under here. It's continuing to drip clean. Let's go ahead and work around the edge here with the rag first before you take any scraper to it. Make sure everything is wiped off. If you can do it with the rag, you can see how clean that is. If you can do it with the rag, go ahead and do it with the rag. No need to add any scrapers or anything if you don't have to. Just use your hand pressure, a nice clean rag, and wipe away. And all of that surface material looks nice. Looks good to me. Now, some filters are held in with pressure. This one's held in with what appear to be some sort of T5, T6 style connector. Let me go ahead and grab my set and see if we can get those removed. Alright guys, I wish I could tell you the answer as to which size bit I'm using, but the set I'm using is so old and so janky and so rusty that I have zero idea what particular size this cat happens to be, but it's just a multi-bladed bit. They come in different sizes. I just don't know what size this one is. I'm so sorry guys. I've been using the same tools forever and a half. All my vehicles run and all my tools still work. So I just take the time and I just flip through, putting one in, putting one in, put one in until I find the right size. Now there's a washer on this bolt, so as it's coming out, try to hold on to it and try to hold back pressure against this filter. I'm not quite sure how else it might be held in. I know there's another bolt over there, but the last thing I want is to take out the last bolt, have this filter splash around in the fluid and give me a transmission fluid bath. Not in the mood for that today. I'm already covered enough. No need to make it worse. I'm going to loosen up this end. Finish it by hand. There we go. Alright, so I'm pushing back against this filter, but there's definitely something else holding it in place. Let's see. I see some weirdness over here. What might that be? No, just might be the pressure of the spout itself. Alright guys, so right now it just seems like the only thing holding it in place is the actual spout from the top of the filter there into the transmission, so when fluid gets sucked through, filtered through, it goes through that. Looks like it's got some sort of heavy duty seal on there. Feeling around this metal bracket that I'm seeing right here, this doesn't seem to actually attach to the transmission filter in any way, so I should just be applying appropriate pressure to this cat to break her free. Hopefully bring that seal with me, because I know my new filter comes with a new seal. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Otherwise, we're definitely going to be having ourselves a splash party. See if I can work in here with two hands. Or a different angle without getting your guys' way too terribly. Shakalaka. But unfortunately, the seal's still up in there. So now, I gotta figure a way to get that out. This is the old filter. That's the spout there. There's a round seal that sits on it. And it's still in the engine. Well, the transmission. See if I can get up in there with my fingers here with the rag. So maybe a little less slippery. I can try to work it out. Negatory, good buddy. Well, we're getting that sucker out, I'll tell you that much. Alright, so that wasn't working. Let's try a new tactic. Get a bit of a heftier screwdriver, and I'm going to try to catch the lip side of the seal on the inside of the case. See if I can pry it out that way. And there we go. Alright, so that worked. So again, come back here, Mr. Seal. We're not done with our talk yet. All right, so this was pushed up in there. I went in with my screwdriver, very gently caught the outside of it, because again, I wasn't gouging into the transmission itself, but I gently slid till I felt that lip there. Then I pried her out. Now install is the reverse, minus the screwdriver. All right, guys, now before ever putting any sort of filter in, this is the new filter, you want to compare it to the old one. I have absolutely had it where I was told I had the right filter, and visually they looked borderline identical, but the spout on the bottom side was almost a whole 1.5 inches longer, which meant when I put my pan on, it bottomed out and it would not allow any fluid to suck through because it was bottomed out, it was too long. And it took me hours to figure out why I wasn't able to get any transmission fluid pressure, why my transmission wasn't shifting. I took everything apart, and then I realized that small difference, 1.5 inches, unless you're holding it side by side, you don't really notice it. But 1.5 inches made all the difference in the world. So I ground out the spouts was the same length, and no issues after that. But always pick up the old one and compare side by side. Check out those spouts, and those appear to be identical on the bottom. Identical on the top. Alright, I'm satisfied those are great filters. Get your new seal, brand new one that came with everything. Alright, so take your new seal, place it on top. Let's go ahead and shimmy her on there. Take some transmission fluid, rub it around here, just to help her slip in a little better, a little easier. And then work her in there. Well, you'd think the install would be a little easier. Well, let's try this instead. Alright, so I went and put it in there by hand, fully seated. Take the new filter, again, a little bit of fluid on the edge there, and just shimmy her in place. There should be. Alright, I wasn't satisfied. I'm going to use my rag here so I can get better traction. There she is. That's what I'm talking about right there. Now she's seated. Then we take our fancy bolts here, whoop, whoop, and we drop them, and we pick them back up. Give the old drop test. That's how you know they're secure. Start one by hand, jump on over, do the other by hand. We'll go ahead and tighten this guy up, and his counterpart on the other side. Make sure you get it decently tight. Don't be a jerk about it, but you don't want this filter coming off on you. And then you won't be able to get fluid into your transmission. You won't be able to drive. You'll be stuck doing this on the side of the road or paying for a tow bill. And where's the fun in that, ladies and gentlemen? Tow companies need love too, but not at my expense. There you go. All right, on to putting the pan on. All right, guys. And so before install, make sure you have your new seal and you figure out the placement of it, like so. All right, I know that it goes like that. Perfect. And then what I always like to do is grab myself a bolt or two and feed it through to try to hold it in place on on opposite corners and sides. And then we'll go ahead and work the pan up and get those 2 bolts in first. That way we didn't know the seal's not going to be slipping on us. Alright folks, and then slowly feed the filter up, the pan up. I mean, oh man, that'd just be 1,000 times easier. Get both hands underneath and not block your view, because you guys deserve to see what's going on here. And then loosely, I don't tighten it all the way, I keep it loose so that I can come through. And I already saw that the seal shifted on me, but not as bad because I already had one on there. We'll get this opposite corner here that fallen out, so I know I showed you, I put it on there before, but it did that number. So I went ahead and put up the 1. I'll feed it through, and I'm physically touching the seal, and I know that I made it through the seal. I'll just work the pan in. There we go. Hand tight. Perfect. And now it's just going through, hand tightening all the bolts, and then hitting it with our wrench, and we're almost done. Alright guys, I went ahead and I tightened everything up. Now, all that's left to do is drop her down, fill her up from the top. Alright guys, one of the issues that I have with a lot of seal transmissions and newer vehicles nowadays, like this particular Dodge Caravan, is they don't give you a transmission fluid dipstick. Now how are we going to work our way around that? Well, what you can do is grab your oil dipstick. Oil is basically oil, but still clean it off anyway. And you can see here, it has hash marks here for the oil that tells you that it's safe. We're going to flip around to the other side, and we're going to put the hash marks we need to check our transmission fluid. Now to check a transmission fluid cold, it's on the cold it's 0.5 to it's 5 to I believe 15 millimeters, which is a extremely dumb measurement. The hot is from 40 to 50 millimeters, so that's what we're going to test. That's the best way to check transmission fluid is when it's at operating temperatures anyway, so we're not going to bother putting the cold markings. 40 to 50 millimeters is roughly 1.5 to 2 inches, because this is God's country. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to measure 1.5 here to 2 inches there. Then we're going to go ahead and put some marks on it. That way we always know that this is our transmission side. And we'll go ahead and get a screwdriver, and we'll just scratch the crap out of that. That way we know if we're at operating temperatures, if we're within that fill range there, that our transmission fluid is good to go. Alright guys, I went ahead and took my screwdriver here, and I made the measurements I needed. 1.5 to 2 inches there. And I scratched it up so I know that's my warm operating temperature fill range. If I take the oil dipstick out, wipe it off, and put this in the transmission fill tube, I'll know that if I have fluid within that hash marks there, I am where I need to be. I went ahead and did some scuffs right here as well, and that's the higher end of the cold fill. So that is just over 1/2 inch, which translates to that 15 millimeter marking. So I went ahead and did that anyway, because we are technically doing a cold fill now. I know this transmission takes roughly 8 quarts of transmission fluid, so let's go ahead and get her filled up. Now the fill area for this transmission is down here underneath these wires. There's a black tube. It's very hard to see even with this giant light that I have. Let's see if I can get in there a little bit better. Nope, doesn't help. My finger's on it right now. Just trust me, it's under there, guys. You'll see it. Get this cat here the best I can. You reach down there's a cap on it. Just go ahead and twist off that cap. There we go. And that's the cap. That's what it looks like. It says for dealer use only. Yeah, because they're a bunch of dealers. So that's why. Now we'll get our funnel, put it in there, and we'll fill up 8 quarts of transmission. Alright guys, so I'm going to go ahead and add our transmission fluid. We got our funnel in place. Get this seal out of the way. Get out of there. What are you doing to me? There we go. Now, These Dodges like this ATF +4 transmission fluid, so that's what we're going to use. And we didn't do a complete flush because there's still going to be transmission fluid within, a couple quarts within the actual inners of the transmission itself. We just did a fluid and filter exchange. Generally use about 8 quarts to do that type of work. So let's go ahead and get this in there. Oh, look how crisp and clear and clean and beautiful that looks. You almost want to drink it. It looks so delicious. Don't do it though. Don't do it. Not saying that I've done it. Not saying that I haven't either. Alright guys, I'm sorry about the lighting situation. My big light was starting to make some plastic melt on me and I didn't want that, so I got that out of there. Moment of truth, we'll take a homemade dipstick, go ahead and put it in there. Now you're not going to get it in there very far. There was a metal band in our transmission pan, well technically the bottom side of the transmission, that was in there. I was playing around with earlier thinking it might have been holding the filter in place. That band actually stops the dipstick from going in very far so you can get proper check. So you go ahead and take the dipstick, put it in there, just basically what feels like a couple of inches till you feel, yep, some resistance right there. I know I hit it. Go ahead and pull her on up. Let's take a look. And look at that, guys. I don't know if you'll be able to see it as dark it is, but I got fluid right up in that area for the cold fill range. I ended up putting in about 9 quarts total because you want to have enough in there to get actually absorbed into the filter itself. The new filter is bone dry, but it wants to have some fluid in there as well. So I know I'm in the proper cold fill range. Next thing to do after this is take it for a test drive, make sure it shifts properly, and then check it again once it's at operating temperatures, because that's the prime time to check your transmission fluid. And there you go, we changed transmission fluid and the filter on this 2014 Dodge Grand Caravan, and we made our own transmission fluid dipstick out of the oil dipstick as well. I hope you guys like this video. Feel free to drop any comments or questions below. Check out all the other videos on the Minute Maintenance channel, including the one where I changed out the transmission shift solenoid on this one. I have to get into the top side of the transmission on this 2014 Dodge Grand Caravan. That's also here on the Minute Maintenance channel. Check out all the other videos. Comments, questions below, like, subscribe, all the good stuff. And guys, take a minute out of your day as always to do some maintenance. Catch you next time.